G'day guys. Today we're going to be taking a look at this cheap Android TV stick. I picked mine up from AliExpress for around $17 Australian delivered, including GST, but they do go for around $40 Australian on eBay. This one in particular is called the MX10 F2 TV stick, 4K apparently. Let's take a look and see what we get in the box. Inside we get the infrared receiver for our infrared remote control. The remote control does take two AAA batteries and is not rechargeable unfortunately. We also get a micro USB cable for power, the Android TV stick itself, and a short HDMI extender since this TV stick is a little bit wide. Taking a look around the TV stick itself, there is a end cap which you can take off, revealing the HDMI connector. There's nothing on one side. On the back we have a single USB-A port, and on the other side we have a micro SD slot, the micro USB port for power, what looks like a microphone, and also the socket where you would connect the infrared adapter we saw earlier. There's also nothing on the back. Let's plug it into our TV and take a look around. So this is the boot screen. It does take around 1 minute to boot from power off. So we're finally on the home screen now. It has finished booting and we'll be navigating using the included remote. Again, you do have to connect the infrared receiver for this to work. The remote itself is pretty self-explanatory. You've got the main buttons up, down, left, right, volume up and down, back and home. They're the main ones. The settings button does bring up the settings. I think we'll start off connecting to my Wi-Fi. I will mention it is quite tedious entering text using the included remote. It would be much easier just connecting a USB keyboard for this step. Now we've connected to our Wi-Fi, we'll take a look around and see what's pre-installed. You can see there's a few tiles on the home screen, but we'll ignore that and we'll go to apps. We've got AirPin Pro, Aptoid, which is a third-party app store. There's the Chihi app store as well, never heard of that before. Google Chrome, DLNA, so you can cast movies from your DLNA server. Got Netflix, I don't have a Netflix account. Media Center, Magis, which is a streaming app. Kodi, which we will take a look at. File Explorer, downloads. Netflix Mod Plus, not too sure what that is. Play Store, Prime Video, Settings, Wi-Fi display, which is just screen mirroring from a compatible device, and YouTube. We'll start off with some YouTube playback, see how well it does that. It opened pretty quick, it's a good sign. Try and go over to search, there we go. Again, I'm doing everything on this remote. We'll go down to use signed out, go back to search, and I'll just try one of my older videos. It did display the results very fast, which is good. We'll try this iMac video. We do have ads. There we go, we can skip now. And here it is here. See if I can bring up stats for nerds. It is a little bit laggy trying to navigate these menus. There's like a 1 second delay. So we are on 1080, which is awesome. Fortunately, I can't see stats for nerds, but we'll go up to 4K. Oh, here it is, stats for nerds at the very bottom. We'll enable that. It seems like it has frozen. We'll give it a second. So it did unfreeze after about 10 seconds, but you can see it is struggling to play 4K. So we'll go back down to 1080. 1080 does seem fine. We haven't dropped any frames yet, but it hasn't really updated the statistics. We'll close out of the settings, go back to full screen. So we did drop 3 frames, but visually it is playing back perfectly smooth. I would say 1080p YouTube playback on this little TV stick is perfectly fine. We'll close out of this, and I'll go across to clear memory, just to give it the best chance. I have prepared a flash drive full of test files, so I'll plug that in and we'll try out local media playback using Kodi. There we go, it did detect it, USB is mounted. It is just formatted as FAT32. We'll go back to apps and we'll try Kodi. It wants access, click OK, allow. We're on the main menu now. We'll go to enter files selection, files. My flash drive is called ROMs, and here's the 2 test videos. I think we'll start with the 4K H.264. It did struggle 4K YouTube, but I think it might be fine local. This actually seems perfectly fine. Nice and smooth. There's a little bit of lag there. This is a high bitrate 4K video, by the way. Oh, we can see it's a little bit laggy now, actually. I'll try fast forward. So seeking is pretty much instant, which is good. High bitrate 4K does seem playable, but it is a little bit laggy in certain spots. I think standard bitrate 4K would be fine. I think we'll take a look at system information under settings to see what specs this device claims to have. On the AliExpress page, it did mention having 1 gig of RAM and 8 gig of ROM. Go settings, we'll go to about. It says it's Android 14. We just went to more settings and it opened up the full settings screen. I just noticed under storage, it says there's 64 gig available. I highly doubt that. And also under RAM, it says there's 4 gig total. That does seem a bit fishy. I'm pretty sure the RAM and the ROM has been spoofed, but we can confirm that using CPUZ. I'll install some apps from my flash drive and we'll come back. I've finished installing everything, so we'll start with CPUZ and see what the real specs are. So it looks like it's using the Rock chip RK3066, which is actually a pretty decent chip. Go over to system. It does actually say it has 4 gig of RAM with 5 or 600 available. So that is interesting. And it reports it has 37 gig of ROM. And we have root. I'm not too sure what the actual total flash would be, as 37 gig is a strange number, even with the base 10, base 2 differences. That is only around 40 gig, which again is just a strange amount. There's obviously no battery, but it does show the temperature. I wonder where the temperature is coming from. That could just be a default temperature as well. And no sensors showed up. We'll close out of this and try and run a benchmark. Go I agree. We did have to scroll down before I could click it. And I guess we'll go install and test. I can't actually select install and test using this remote. No matter what I do, I can't get to it. I can't even get to the settings. Oh, there we go. If I hold down the mouse button on this remote, there we go. It does go into mouse mode. Now I can use up, down, left, right as a mouse. It is very slow though. And to turn it back off, I'll just hold it down. We have to use the mouse cursor to go down to allow. There we go. Not too sure what the little pop-up at the bottom is. I'll just press back and I'll go back to install and test. Looks like it might be something off screen. I'll exit out of mouse mode by holding it down. It should be back to, no, we're still in mouse mode. Maybe KD. Right, so KD is short for Kodi, and it is mapped to launch Kodi. That is interesting. That's pretty good if you want to use this as a local media player. We don't, we'll close out of this. I want to get back into keyboard mode, so I'll just hold down mouse, there we go. And it's back to up, down, left, right. I wasn't able to get Antutu running, so we'll try 3D Mark. Go through the start, goes done, and it did crash. I'll clear memory just in case. Go back to apps, and we'll try 3D Mark once more. It did crash again. We'll leave benchmarking for now, and instead we'll try a few of the emulators that we installed. We'll start off with something simple, Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Go open content, browse for folder, go to select, there we go. We'll start off with original Game Boy, just Super Mario Land 1, something nice and easy. I'm going to open up the options menu and I'll see if I can map the OK button to maybe A. It looks like up, down, left and right are mapped to the D-pad by default, but OK isn't mapped to anything. So I'll go into settings, just pressing the back arrow, press the back arrow again, gamepad input, setup, auto detect. Alright, PC keyboard is what it shows up as. We want gamepad, we want up, down, left and right the same. I'll see what buttons we can actually remap. So I'll try volume. Volume actually works. We'll go B to volume down, and we'll have start as OK, which is center. Alrighty, we'll close the options menu off, just press back a few times. So we're back in the game. You can see the button mapping did work, but you can't do more than one button at a time. So you can go right or jump, but if you hold right and press jump, nothing happens. So you have to jump, wait a little bit, and then go forward. So not ideal for platformers, but for something like Pokemon, this is actually quite playable. You could also hold the remote sideways and remap the buttons so it works in this configuration. We'll close out of this, just press home. And for the rest of the emulators, I won't bother trying to map the little remote. Instead, I'll just use this cheap wireless USB gamepad that was included with my GameStick Lite 4K. I have connected the little gamepad receiver just through a USB hub. I'll turn it on. Now hopefully I just turn the controller on and it should pair. And it did. It actually does work out of the box as well. That is pretty cool. Next up, we'll try some Game Boy Advanced using my gamepad. Open content, we've got to select our location again. And we've got DKC2 and Pokemon Emerald. We'll try DKC2, which is usually a harder to run game. It does seem full speed so far. Interestingly, pressing mode does bring up the options menu. I'll try and remap a fast forward button, because obviously if you're going to be playing RPGs like Pokemon, you are going to want to fast forward the slow bits. Go back, we want gamepad input setup again, auto detect, just press a button. We want in emulation actions, and I want to go down to fast forward, and I'll do R2, which it already was set to R2, which is interesting. We'll go back, press mode again to get out of it, and sure enough, R2 was fast forward by default. It can't fast forward very fast, as you can see, it is struggling. And this seems perfectly playable. There doesn't seem to be any real slowdown. It might be playing maybe 1 or 2% slower than it should, but it's barely noticeable. Yeah, I would say Game Boy Advance, perfectly playable. Next we'll try some classic NES, and we've just got Mega Man 2 to test. Fast forward does work really well on this. It is extremely fast, as you can see, and all the buttons just mapped out of the box. That's really good. Yeah, basic NES Emulation works absolutely perfectly. We'll try some Super Nintendo, and we've just got Yoshi's Island since this is usually a really hard to run one. We're finally in the game, and it does run full speed. There's no slowdowns, no lag, and so far no graphical glitches. We'll try fast forward, and you can see fast forward isn't the best, but for RPGs it'll be fine. I'm really impressed with Super Nintendo Emulation. Next up, Duck Station, which is a PlayStation 1 emulator. It is just sitting on a white screen. Not a good sign. Here we go. Go next. Add a game directory. We'll use ROMs. It won't let me select it. Go File. Here we go. It does want a BIOS file, which we have copied. So we'll go yes. But I am having a hard time trying to add a directory using this gamepad. I might have to go back to using the remote control in mouse mode. So hold down the mouse button. There we go. And very slowly try and navigate. We've added our game directory. Perfect. Next we'll add the BIOS. There it is there. We'll select that. Import it OK. And we'll try Crash Bandicoot 2. Didn't actually work, unfortunately. Are there any settings we can change? Go App Settings. Go over to Graphics. I guess we'll change it to Software. And see how bad that is. Go back and try it again. Still no good. I don't think we have Vulkan. I'll try Force OpenGL, even though it kept saying it doesn't support it. We'll go back into keyboard mode. We'll keep all that as default. We'll go back and hopefully it works. Do have to go back to mouse mode, annoyingly. And we'll try Gran Turismo 2 this time. Unfortunately, the same error. It looks like Duck Station's not going to work on this little TV stick. At least not the latest version. So we'll leave PS1 for now. And we'll try out our last emulator, Nintendo 64. Just using M64 Plus FZ. Not too sure why it's not detecting any of our ROMs. Oh, here we go. Select folder. Might go back to keyboard mode. Go back. So there's our 3 games we've put on. I'll connect my gamepad once more. We'll go start the game. I'm not sure if it's going to map my controls by default. We'll find out. It seems my joystick is working. So the button mapping's a little bit strange out of the box. But again, we are using a PS2 style controller and not a 64 controller. But it doesn't seem that laggy actually. I would say this is fairly playable. We'll close out of this and try something a lot more demanding, GoldenEye. It did just quit back out. We'll try to go back into it. Go reset the game. There we go. Not too sure what happened the first time. So the main menu is very laggy, as you can see. We'll try push on. Oh, it's a lot faster here. Go to DAM. We'll go agent, it's because this controller is not the best. So finally in the game. It is extremely choppy, unfortunately. Yeah, I would say GoldenEye 64 is unplayable, but no surprises here, this is a very hard to run game. Overall, for $17 Australian, this is an absolute bargain. Out of the box, it's sort of set up for media playback, and it even has a dedicated Kodi button, which is interesting. We weren't able to test Netflix since we don't have a Netflix account, but the Magis streaming app does work, and YouTube playback at 1080p standard bitrate was perfectly fine. Unsurprisingly, 4K YouTube just wasn't working, but 4K high bitrate in Kodi wasn't that bad. I would say standard bitrate 4K would definitely be watchable and enjoyable on this. It does have the Google Play Store installed, but I personally wouldn't trust it with a real account. If you were going to use it, I'd probably make an account just for this stick, something you don't care about. But we ended up just sideloading all of our apps anyway, and low-end emulation worked perfectly fine. Even light 64 games, like Super Mario 64, was perfectly playable. We weren't able to get PS1 working, but that's probably just a Duck Station issue. But I'm sure if we used an older version, or a different PlayStation 1 emulator altogether, it would have probably been playable. It does also have working Bluetooth, which is pretty cool, and you can see it did find my little cheap Bluetooth headphones. If you had a wireless gamepad, or even a Bluetooth gamepad, you could easily turn this little TV stick into a dedicated emulation device, at least for lower end systems. We were able to remap some of the built-in remote controls buttons for our emulators, and although you can't press 2 buttons at once on this remote, it does register single presses. So platformers, or shooting games, like Mega Man or Mario, completely unplayable with the remote, but RPGs like Pokemon or Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, and anything turn-based really, could be played using just the remote. I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.